Hello everyone, and in today's video we'll discuss some very commonly asked and very important React Native interview questions. So the first very important interview question is, what JS engine does React Native use? So React Native is a framework which uses React JS, right? And React JS is a JavaScript library. Now JavaScript is not understood by the mobile directly, right? Or the browsers directly. They need a JavaScript engine to execute the JavaScript code, right? So different browsers will have different JavaScript engines embedded inside them. For example, Internet Explorer will have Chakra, Mozilla has Monkey, Chrome has V8 engine, and Safari has JavaScript core JavaScript engine. Okay. Now going back to the original question, what JS engine does React Native use? So Hermes is the answer. Hermes is an JavaScript engine that is embedded inside React Native. Okay. Now React Native will come with a bundled version of Hermes by default. Okay, so it uses this by default. Okay, and no additional configuration is required to enable it. So by default, the JavaScript engine would be Hermes. Okay, earlier it used to use JavaScript core engine, but now since Hermes has been developed specifically for React Native by Facebook, which has so this Hermes has improved startup time, it has decreased memory usage and smaller size compared to JavaScript core. Okay, so whenever someone asks you what JS engine does React Native use, the answer would be Hermes. Another very, very important interview question is, what happens when you click on React Native app icon? So suppose you're clicking on the Instagram icon, what happens under the hood that you need to explain? So what happens when you press on app icon? So suppose you're using iOS phone, Apple, you're using iPhone, okay? When you click on the Instagram icon, the UI manager, okay, the UI manager of that phone will load all the native modules. In this case, it will be iOS native modules. And if you're using any Android phone, let's suppose you're using Samsung or Redmi phone, then the UI manager, the UI thread. Okay, so the UI thread is managing UI manager, UI thread, or we can call it native thread also. Okay, that is your mobile's thread. The UI thread or the native thread will load native modules. So in case of iPhone, it will load all the iOS native modules, and in case of Samsung or Redmi Android phones, it will load all the Android native modules. Okay. So in case of Android, we have .apk file. Okay, we have to build a .apk file using Gradle in our React Native project, and upload that .apk file in the Play Store. Okay, and that APK file comes up as a Instagram app or any React Native app. In case of iOS, we have .ipa similarly. Now this .ipa and .apk file, this will have all the native modules in it installed. In it embedded, and it will also have the main.bundle.js, that your React JS app, basically your JavaScript code, okay, inside it. Now UI thread has already uh, uploaded the native modules. It is done loading the native modules. Now it will call the JS thread. "Ki boss, I've done all the uploading of the native modules. Now you can start uploading the JS bundle." Okay, now JS bundle is loaded. Okay, so all the React components or your logic, all the views is loaded by the JS thread. So UI thread calls the JS thread to load the JS bundle. Okay, so this is the second step. So once JS thread is done loading the JS bundle, it will tell the bridge that I'm done. Okay, now let's understand this. UI thread and JS thread, they don't interact with each other directly. Okay, so they have bridge as a mediator, which will convert their messages to the messages that they understand. Okay, so let's understand. UI thread is basically a UI manager which is talking to native modules. Okay, it only understands native modules and the native language. It doesn't understand JavaScript. Similarly, JavaScript thread doesn't understand the native language. It talks to the JavaScript bundle. Okay, so these two threads are interacting in different languages. They don't know each other's languages. Okay, so the bridge acts as a mediator and interpreter which interprets both of these languages. So UI thread will send a JSON message uh, to bridge, and the bridge will do all the serialization and deserialization and send the messages to JS thread, and similarly JS thread will send a JSON and receive a JSON. So this interaction happens between UI manager and the JS thread. Okay, so the bridge is the main mediator or the main component here in React Native, which will help in the interaction between the UI thread and the JS thread. Then it goes to the shadow node or the yoga. Okay, so shadow node and the shadow thread, as we call it, is basically for the layout of the application. Okay, now let's understand this, that the mobile doesn't understand, the native side of the mobile doesn't understand the flexbox or the CSS that we have in React JS, right? So basically yoga calculates, it's basically converting that flex box into the layout that mobile understand. Okay, so yoga is a library basically, which is run in the shadow thread. Okay, now we had UI thread, JS thread, and this is a shadow thread. This is a different thread just for layout. Okay, and yoga library helps in conversion of this CSS or the flex box that we have in React JS, right? Converting that into the layout that mobile understands. Okay, so these two things happen once the JS bundle has been loaded and the native modules have been loaded. This layout is prepared by Yoga and the shadow thread. Okay. And then you are able to see the UI that comes in your Instagram page. Okay. And then you can watch your reels and all the photos of your friends after that. Okay. So let's have a recap. So there are basically three threads, okay? UI thread, JS thread, and the shadow thread. UI thread is basically for the native thread, basically for loading the native modules. JS thread is basically for loading the JS bundle or executing the React JS code. Bridge is a mediator which acts as a mediator between these two thread, and we have a shadow thread which is powered by Yoga, which is a library that calculates the layout for the mobile. Okay, let's quickly understand how React Native Bridge works. Suppose this is your React Native code. You have a view and you have image and text inside it. This code you must have seen in your Xcode project, right? So these are the basically the files which we call as the React Native Bridge. This converts this React Native code into the iOS code. Okay, so this conversion is happening in Bridge. So since 0.68 React Native version, this React Native Bridge has been deprecated. So I'll not go into detail of this React Native Bridge. We'll talk about the new architecture and all its component in a separate video because it's a bigger topic. Okay. So please do subscribe to our channel and like the video if you like the video, and please hit the bell icon because I'll be releasing that new architecture setup and new architecture working video very soon. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.